The abundance of water that we read about in the first reading from Ezekiel is symbolic of the grace of God, the power of God. The water coming from the temple restores the whole earth. It's such a beautiful image. Fruit trees that bear fruit every month, wouldn't that be great? And you see that the water cleanses everything. It becomes a source of food for the fish in the sea, for the people, for everyone. And he just paints a picture of a perfect paradise, like it was before sin came into the world. And this is what Ezekiel is prophesying, that we have to have hope. God is going to bring all this together and make it good again. In the meantime, there's still suffering in our world, and we read about that in the gospel. People believe that the pool of Bethesda had curative powers. There's nothing in the scriptures that says it actually did. They're just saying that the people believed that it did. And people would go into that water seeking to be cured. When Jesus comes and sees this man who is totally paralyzed and he can't do anything to get to the water, Jesus cures him. By his word, he says, take up your mat and walk. And the man is totally cured. The word of God heals him. Jesus is concerned about his physical welfare, but more about his spiritual welfare. Later on in the temple, when he comes across the man again, Jesus says to him, you're well now. And so don't commit any sins so that things don't get worse. He wasn't saying that his sin was the cause of his illness. He was just saying that there's something worse than physical illness. And that's the lesson perhaps for us. I suspect every one of us in this church has some physical ailment of one kind or another. And we wish it would go away. But eventually it will. And what we need to remember is that sin is actually worse than any physical illness. The physical illness will be all gone when we die. But when we die, we will have a place of eternal joy and happiness in heaven if we have been able to avoid sin and truly be repentant of it. The Lord sees us. Here he is in a crowd of people. There were sick and lame people all over the place. And somehow Jesus notices this particular man. No doubt it was because of his sincere faith. And the Lord singles him out and says, do you want to be well? And as a sign of the divine power of God, he makes him physically well, but more importantly, he makes him spiritually well. And so that's the lesson for us, is that in the season of Lent, we try to rid ourselves of sinful habits and realize that they will have eternal problems for us unless we get rid of them now. And the Lord is more than willing to cure every one of us of our spiritual illness. Let us stand and offer our prayers and petitions.